got them for the first time this year, and they're not working on the progressives. Can't figure it out at all.
I just need to see.
It's not working.
Yeah,
It's not
same.
something wrong.
I'm
Something
fighting
wrong.
back, but this
For me, I was
is
reading
it's
that, so
coming.
I kept
Yeah.
tired of, got
Everybody
tired of
actually
always
literally
looking
is
for
around.
glasses to put on your eyes, and I went and got just clear.
My
and
dad is 95, will read the paper every day, and now still
No, I
doesn't
can't
wear
either. I
glasses.
can only use
Really?
it.
He doesn't miss over.
and dizziness.
That's the, he's
And keeps people like, oh, you're getting
95 years old.
I've had these since January.
Oh, yeah.
He's cool, it's just mind
I couldn't
boggling.
get used to mine.
But I put some on
It's
for
very uncommon.
about
Well,
right
yeah, it's just
here.
not like he's.
Yeah.
Okay, good evening everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting. And I also want to welcome those at home who are chiming in this evening online. And before we get into the agenda, I'd like to introduce everybody who's here tonight. So we have Councillor or Deputy Mayor Woodford, Councillor Bruce King, Councillor Laura Crawley, Councillor Curtis Buckle, Councillor Sadie King, Councillor Steve Windsor, Executive Assistant Krista Turnbull, and our CIO Gary Corbett, and our Director of Recreation Steve Martin is doing all the work down there online with the to make sure everything flows good tonight. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. And you have a copy of the minutes. Could I have a motion to approve, please? Moved by Councillor Bruce King, seconded by Councillor Buckle. Further discussion?
Adopt the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Still a bit rusty. Okay, the adoption of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve, please? Moved by Councillor Crawley, seconded by Councillor Buckle. All those in favour? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. Okay, the minutes from the meeting of October the 19th. Are there any errors or omissions? Okay, if not, the table will adopt them as presented. Business arising from the minutes. Okay, if there's no business arising, we will move on to the mayor's update. I have a couple of points here. Last Wednesday, myself and Marjorie and the CAO were invited by the Marine Institute to attend a ceremony at the Star of the Sea for the unveiling of the new brand for the Holyrood Marine Base, which will now be called the Launch. And also, the building will be dedicated to Dr. Art May, and will be called the Dr. Arthur W. May Building. Dr. May, for those of you who may know, was president of Memorial University from 1990 to 1999. He was instrumental in strengthening Marine Institute's education, industrial training, and applied research programs for the fisheries and marine sector within Memorial. So obviously, it's quite fitting that this building be dedicated in his name. For more information on the concept of the launch and all the activity that will be happening at that facility, you can visit the Oceans Holyrood Initiative, or OHI, Facebook page. And the construction is progressing well and is scheduled to open next September. So, the second point I have here, with regard to Remembrance Day ceremony on Thursday, November 11th, we have been informed by the Legion that due to COVID-19 guidelines, this will be an informal ceremony. among the Legionnaires. So any residents who wish to lay a wreath is certainly welcome to do so after the ceremony. Because this is an outdoor event, residents can still attend, respecting social distancing. So I encourage everyone at 11 a.m. to please take a moment to pause and reflect on the sacrifice our brave and valiant soldiers made during the war to fight for and defend our freedom. And the last item I have is regarding the budget preparations. They are well underway, and the committees and staff have been doing a very thorough job reviewing their respective departments. Due to declining revenue as a result of the property assessments, we are optimistic that each department will realize a 4% reduction within their operating budgets to help offset that decrease in revenue. Overall, financially, our town remains in very healthy shape, and our debt ratio is still fairly low at around 11%. And under the Municipalities Act, we can go as high as 30%. So all in all, our town remains in good shape financially. So that's it for the mayor's update. And now we will move on to correspondence. Any correspondence this week?
I don't have any, Your Worship.
Okay, no correspondence. All right. Now we'll move on to Planning and Development. Deputy Mayor Woodford.
Thank you, Mayor Gooby. The Planning and Development Committee met on October the 28th with Mayor Gary Gooby, CAO Gary Corbett, Executive Assistant Krista Turnbull, Councillor Steve Windsor, and myself in attendance. 2 applications were reviewed. Discretionary use ads will be posted for both applications in the Shoreline and on the town's website on November the 4th. And a deadline date for comments has been set for November the 18th. So the committee recommended reviewing these applications for recommendations after that deadline date. Due to time constraints, the budget was deferred at that meeting for future discussion, so we need to do that probably sometime this week. There's 2 motions that we have this evening. One is a permit listing. Be it resolved to table and approach the attached permit listing. 16 permits were issued from October the 16th to November the 4th, and include permits for new residents, paving, occupancy, site, general repairs, and garage. And those are permit numbers 10-0443-21 to 10-0450-21 and 11-0451-21 to 11-0452-21. So moved.
Okay, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Windsor. Further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favour, please raise your hands. Those against, motion is carried.
And there's one other application for approval. Its location is 18 Ridge Road. The zoning is residential medium density, and the proposal is residential. Be it resolved that the Town of Holyrood approve the above application in principle, subject to the Town of Holyrood development regulations. So moved.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Woodford, seconded by Councillor Windsor. Further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favour, those against, motion is carried.
Thank you, Mayor Gooby, and to all the committee members. That ends the report from the Planning and Development Committee.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. And now we'll move on to Recreation and Community Events. Councillor Buckle.
Good evening, everyone. Our Recreation Committee met 2 weeks ago. Myself, Councillor King, the CAO, and Recreation Director Steve Martin. First of all, just a couple of points here. The Tasty Trail went ahead last Sunday, and it went over really well. There was over 90 people in attendance, and the weather was great, so that helped that event, and people really enjoyed themselves. The town's Christmas events are currently in the planning, and we expect the town's Christmas flyer to be in the mail early next week with a list of events. With that being said, there's a couple there that I would like to point out here tonight. The Toy Mountain will run from November the 29th to December the 15th with a drop off of here at the Town Hall. And that event over the last several years has went over really well, and there goes out to the less fortunate, and with Christmas and stuff, it's great to see, and it's great to see the people that support it and drop off donations here at the Town Hall. So we hope for a good turnout again this year. The lighting of the park will take place this year. We never went ahead last year, was virtual through Zoom. But this year we're looking to light the park on Monday, December the 6th. So as everyone knows, when the park is lit up, there's a very big attraction for our town here. A lot of people come here, it's very nice. We're always adding each year. Our public works through Steve are always adding more lights, and we hope that one day to have the whole loop lit up so that you can go on one end and go up and come across the bridge and come back down the other side. So that's a big event. It's beautiful, and a lot of people do come and enjoy it throughout the Christmas holiday season. Also, the town will be having the Holyrood Santa Claus Parade on December the 12th. We encourage all business, families, and community groups to get involved. Last year we never had it due to COVID, so something that we're looking forward to this year, and I'm sure a lot of people in our community and neighboring communities are looking forward to, and especially our young kids. So we hope for a good turnout, and we hope for a great day on December 12th for our parade. The next one is the Summer Lawn Recreation Park. In the spring of this year, the town hosted a public engagement campaign through Zoom, an online survey to generate feedback from the public for a new recreation hub in the community. Mills & Wright Landscape Architect completed the design for the Summer Lawn Recreation Park, which was adopted by the previous council this fall. We are happy to provide the public with a more detailed tour of the Summer Lawn Recreation Park concept with lead architect Rachel from Mills & Wright. Through this video, there's a video that we're going to show here very soon that was prepared by staff. But before I ask Krista to play the video, anyone that's watching our meeting here this evening through live stream may not be able to see the video that good, but the video will be uploaded tomorrow morning to our site. So now I'll ask Krista to play the video, please.
Welcome everyone. My name is Rachel Keough, and I am a landscape architect with Mills & Wright Landscape Architecture in St. John's. The Salmon Line Recreation Park Master Plan project was launched in 2021 to develop a vision for the future development of the Town of Holyrood property. This video will provide a brief overview of the project process and the elements featured in the plan. Along with Mills & Wright Landscape Architecture, the Town of Holyrood engaged with the public to determine the future amenities that should be included on site. The public engagement process included a virtual open house and an online survey. The findings from the engagement included suggestions for several recreation facilities, many of which you will see included in the plan. Other notable themes that arose were the importance of inclusive and accessible design, connection between amenities, and beautification of the overall property. This plan is a high-level master plan that presents a vision for the property, including all future recreation amenities and considerations of other future land uses. This plan is meant to be used as a guide, as development of all amenities at one time is not feasible. The town will use this plan to help guide and locate the amenities as they are developed in the coming years. As amenities are built, more detailed planning will be conducted to ensure that the goals of accessibility, connectivity, and beautification are all achieved. In summer 2021, work began on the property to improve the existing soccer field. At the same time, a larger parking area and small washroom and canteen building were added. The large parking area on Kennedy's Lane Extension will become the main parking area for the recreation park. Additional parking will be provided in the existing lots near the softball field and the dog park. The recreation park will have two main points of entry, one on Kennedy's Lane Extension and one on Salmon Line. Space for a future access road has also been included that would accommodate any future development on the site, such as an indoor recreation facility or a school. Starting by the soccer field, it is recommended that the existing skate park be relocated to accommodate a new skating and hockey rink in that location. This location is ideal due to its proximity to the washrooms and parking lot and any servicing infrastructure that would be necessary to flood the rink each winter. The space near the new canteen and washroom building is ideal for a seniors outdoor recreation area. This can include space for bocce, shuffleboard, and horseshoes. The location is ideally adjacent to parking, washrooms, and canteen. The skate park can be relocated and expanded. A small series of mountain biking trails and a pump track can fit next to the skate park. A pump track is a circular route that provides opportunities for banks, bumps, and curves for riders. The natural state of this area should be maintained, with the mountain biking trails being accommodated within the existing wooded area. Multi-courts are paved courts with different painted lines that accommodate several different uses on the same court. The one shown on this plan would accommodate basketball, tennis, badminton, and volleyball. 2 courts would provide opportunities for 2 groups to play at the same time. An existing trail runs from the soccer field to the northern property line, and this trail should be maintained during any future development. Eventually, the goal is to connect that trail to future trails constructed throughout the town as a part of the Holyrood Trails Master Plan. One goal of this master plan was to create a central gathering and open space that provides a park setting for visitors. The space next to the existing playground is a central part of the site and is ideal for an open lawn space. Several amenities can be provided in this area, including a small man-made sliding hill, a picnic shelter that can also function as a covered stage, a splash pad, an outdoor classroom, and a botanical garden. Connections can also be provided to the existing community garden and dog park. The space between the dog park and parking area can accommodate a future community center. The entrance on Salmonier Line can be realigned if an access road is required through the site. This would also require some realignment of the existing parking areas. The community garden, dog park, and softball fields can all remain in their current locations. Space has been considered for a softball administration building as well as a future additional softball field. While not shown at this scale, the intention would be for the park to have lighting and site furniture such as benches, trash receptacles, and bike racks. Ornamental planting beds to help with beautification should also be included. In terms of next steps, the town will work to develop these amenities as funding opportunities become available, using this plan to guide the future development of the Salmon Line Recreation Park. Thank you for taking the time to learn about this exciting project for the town of Holyrood. Any questions can be forwarded to the town at info@holyrood.ca. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. That's the plan that Mills and Wright done. There's a lot of detail into that plan, and as I said, a lot of these things as part of this plan come back from from the residents through the survey, and it was approached that was done by the previous council. But there's a lot of good stuff in there, and I really think we as a council, need to look at starting this plan to move it forward. Marjorie do go out and try to get some funding, but just depending on funding to start and move some of this, may never get it moving. I would like to see this council decide what we would like to do and see how we can go about it and start out this plan. The plan is here, it's very detailed. There's a lot of information that come back from the community, and I think that we should look at trying to start this plan and move it forward sooner rather than later. Thank you. That's it for me. And before I sit down, I'll ask Councillor King if she had anything to add on behalf of the plan or recreation, because she's on the committee with me. Thank you.
Yes, I am going to add something here to this evening. We're looking at a beautiful, plan for Salmonier Line. We do have a beautiful soccer field, ball field, all outdoor facilities. But look around. Do we have any place to go? No, we don't have an inside facility here. Right now, the town of Holyrood is very lucky to have access to the Star of the Sea. If we didn't have that, there'd be nothing going on really for our residents or for our children or for anybody. Every time we use that facility, we're paying rent. Should we be paying rent for a facility in our town? No, we should have our own. And the money that we're paying out in rent could easily pay off a loan to build this building. If we look at our neighbouring communities, what do you see? Every one of them got their own building. It may not be perfect, but at least they got a place to go. Their youth can go there, their seniors can go there. All the residents can go there and they can say, we got a place to go. But in Holyrood, we got no place to go. If I want to have a seniors meeting with my group tomorrow, I don't have a place to go. Granted, COVID is keeping us back right now. but there is not one facility available for the seniors in Holyrood. And that's just the seniors. So I think we got to take a serious look at this plan. We got to look at where we're going to start, and we got to be upfront and start doing something. And that should be getting a loan and getting this community centre started. And then we can say we got a place to go. Great to have all those outdoor facilities, but we have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor King. Anybody like to add to that? Councillor Crawley.
Just like to say what a great job the hoedown was as well. I'm not sure if in the public meeting it was mentioned, so it was a fantastic opportunity. Lots of things to do with kids, adults, even my teenagers got involved, so that was nice. And also Tasty Trail was fantastic, well run. Everyone seemed to enjoy themselves. There was food, drink, and dancing, the whole thing. So that was a fantastic job to our recreation group. This is a fantastic, I love the presentation of it and how well it was set up and done so we can see what the plans are. And I was just wondering if there was a breakdown of how much each piece would cost. I know I keep looking at it back in finance, but I would love to see, and I'm not sure if that's an option, and you can let me know in any minute, that each section, if we could break it down, or if it has been already broken down into how much it would cost and where the most sensible start would be, or breakdown, that kind of thing. So if anyone has any of those, and if not now, we can get it later.
Councillor Buckle.
Just to comment on that one, Councillor Crawley, yes, we're in the process now of actually getting all those numbers for each part of that plan. So we should have that in the near future, and I know that Steve has been working on our recreation director, and he may have some of it already in, but we will have it part of our budget. We will be presenting the cost for each part of that facility. Thanks.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other questions or comments on that? I'd just like to make a few comments in reference to Councillor King's point that she made about the recreation facility, or the indoor facility. And there's no question, I mean, we do concur, and we all recognize that. You know, we have a lot of outdoor facilities, and of course, this is a beautiful plan. I really like the concept, and I certainly, on behalf of this council, pass on our thanks and congratulations to the former councillor for the vision and the forward thinking in putting all this together, because it is a beautiful piece of work. It will become the hub for recreational activities, and it's something there for the whole family of all ages to enjoy. And it's, you know, it's a piece by piece project. We know it's not all going to be done at one time, but we have some of the things there now. The dog park is there now. The community garden is there now. We have the softball field. We have the skate park, and we have the soccer field. So we have several of these amenities there now. So it's up to this council to pick up where the last council left off and move this project forward. But again, in saying that, Councillor King, we fully recognize that it's very important to our seniors that they have a place to go for their recreational activities, and not only for the seniors, but a multi-purpose facility for people of all ages, for families and whatnot. And it has been discussed at the last recreation meeting, and I know it has been discussed prior to that. So, Councillor King, I would encourage you to keep it moving forward, keep the pressure on council, and we will hopefully be able to secure some funding in the future and have this much needed facility built, because we certainly agree it is a facility that's needed in our community. Councillor Windsor.
Yeah, I got to jump in on this. Councillor King. Excellent presentation. And, you know, I look at this and I want it all, right? You know, and Councillor King and the building too, I really do. You know, it's, you know, the quality of presentation was fantastic. So I just want to acknowledge staff and the Recreation Committee. A little bit of feedback there, guys. But, you know, to Councillor Crawley's point, getting an estimate on the implementation of each of the portions of that's important. And the reality is, this stuff is going to span multiple councils, right? And certainly want to acknowledge the previous council for getting this process started. Mm-hmm. But you know, we as a council, in consultation with the residents, you you know, it worked around prioritizing, you know, what comes first. And a saying comes to mind, like how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So together, it's going to start, you know, knocking some things off. What do we want to achieve in the next 4 years? And knowing that we're going to end up leaving things for the subsequent council, right? But very well done. Love it. And also, I want to circle back on the Tasty Trail. I thought that was an excellent event. I want to comment on that as well, Councillor Buckley, in your update. I also attended the event. Somehow, the Town of Holyrood ordered, you know, great weather. The only problem, I made a joke when I came into the Director of Recreation there, the only problem was I wanted to do a second lap and they wouldn't let me. But it was fabulous, right? And a lot of residents, and a lot of tourists too, I think. People not from Holyrood were visiting our town for this event, right? And that's an important pillar in recreation too, right? So I just wanted to give a shout out to the organisers. Excellent, excellent work. Look forward to future events.
Thank you very much, Councillor Windsor. And I'd also like to briefly touch on a point that Councillor Buckle just made regarding the Toy Mountain. As we all know, this was a project that was introduced by our Director of Recreation, Steve Martin, several years ago. It has grown and continued to build year over year. And as we know, I mean, times right now are hard economically. You know, the price of everything now is soaring, price of food, rent, you name it, everything is going up. Inflation, unfortunately, is going through the roof. So there are families struggling. There's no question. There's families struggling. And we want to make sure that we can do what we can to make sure, through the contributions of our residents, that no family is left behind. So I'm really, on behalf of this council, reaching out to the residents of Holyrood and saying, look, step up and really give as much as you possibly can to make sure that every child will have a smile on their face on Christmas morning. So that's my message. Okay, any other questions or comments relating to recreation and community events? Okay, if not, we will now move on to infrastructure and public works. Councillor Windsor, you're up.
Sir, back again so soon. All right, I'll try to be briefer than the last public council meeting, where there's a long list of important files, I think, to relay to the council and the residents. But today, just some highlights on 5 or 6 subjects by way of an update. So since our last public meeting on the 19th, committee, including CAO Gary Corbett, Councillor Sadie King to my right, and Director of Public Works Robert Stacey, we've met twice. Once for the regular committee business, and once to review next year's proposed budget needs and priorities. And as the Mayor mentioned earlier at the beginning of the meeting in the Mayor's update, that'll be the subject of ongoing activity over coming weeks. And you know, I just wanted to acknowledge the Director's good work in presenting his proposed budget with the targeted cost savings as mentioned, targeting 4%. So on with that, the budget, very detailed and concise, and for me, some questions that I had of the committee, and I would encourage other committee members and different departments to sort of think about and ask the same sorts of questions. Where are the risks, right? When staff are presenting their budget, where are the risks, and where are the costs trending, up and down, right? I don't intend to get into the minutiae of every single line item, but you're looking for the trends and where are the opportunities, okay? So on the risk side for us in public works and infrastructure, obviously aging infrastructure, that's a huge risk to us, right? In particular town water and sewer. And we do have several ongoing studies to address that, and those were subject of updates at the last public council meeting. So I won't go into all of those. So I think we're addressing some of those things. However, emergency preparedness, I think that's a gap right now, and that's a risk. So I will be advocating for the spare pump to mitigate that risk in the event of an outage. We're handicapped, right? And through some good luck, we haven't seen service interruptions that have been extreme, but and as mentioned, supply chain, and Mayor Gooby just touched on it. Supply chain globally is very challenged right now. You're not getting a spare pump off the shelf, right? You need to be ready for that. So it's something I'll be coming forward with to propose. It is an expenditure, And, council will have to decide, is that something worth pursuing or not? The other thing in the budget, in terms of the trending, is the increased maintenance cost on our equipment, right? And so something will be coming forward to council with the future will be our approach to fleet renewal. And just by way of example, and I don't want to get into all the detailed figures, but they're certainly available to anyone afterward. 3 machines, we have 3 machines between 10 and 15 years old, and each costing 5 figures plus in maintenance costs last year. Big numbers, right? So it might be time for some fleet renewal there. So again, budgetary item, coming forward to council, and I'm sure all the other committees will be coming forward to council with priorities as well, right? And we'll figure that out together. But that's an update on the budget side, okay? The water supply study. At the committee meeting, SNC11 presented an overview on their engineering study to potentially draw water from the North Arm River. I won't go down into the details in the study report. It's not the purpose of this meeting or the update. But the key finding from the report, which is evident to us, is that it is a viable water source for our town. Safe, secure, it's reliable. There are some recommended next steps, including initiating an investigative process for environmental and regulatory stakeholder engagement, continued water sampling program. That will have a cost associated with it, Councillor Crowley. And there will obviously have to be some detailed engineering follow. This was a feed level study, front-end engineering design. Normally what would happen, there would be a detailed engineering design study to follow that, right? Anticipated order of magnitude cost for the implementation would be 3.6 million. That includes the Salmon Line water main extension of 1 million has already been applied for under the provincial multi-year capital works funding programs, okay? So that's the water supply study. The pressure relief valve project, and this was a project I described at the last public council meeting, intended to alleviate unacceptable high pressure in certain regions in the system, which caused component failure, higher maintenance costs, and service interruptions to our residents. It's not sustainable for us to continue on that path. So with the current status of the project, engineering drawings prepared by Innovative Engineering, they're with the province for approval, and then we'll take it from there. Okay? Bear with me now, we're getting toward the end, guys. Terry's Mountain, all right, give an update on that one now. So since our last public council meeting, we have received a typical generic drawing of a potential armor stone retaining wall scenario. Now, my issue, and shared by concerned staff, is it's not specific to the unique site requirements and the geology of the area, okay? So, I don't want to delay this remediation. I'm as interested as everybody as getting this remediation done, but I want to make sure it gets done correctly, to correct engineering, to specifications unique to that area for the long-term safety of people coming by and utilizing that trail. So what we're doing is we're going back and forth with the province right now, getting technical clarifications. Right? So we're working that file, and until we are satisfied, the stop work order is recommended to stay in place. Okay? The beach boardwalk, as everyone can see, first phase is well underway, and acknowledge that the contractor is performing their work well and in compliance with the design. There'll be future discussions here, and what we want to move forward with the phase 2, which is the remaining boardwalk. Phase 3 is the festival grounds, or do we flip that? What do you want to do first in sequence, and how much does that cost? And just for the residents who are interested, in this, I know a lot of people have asked about it. People approach me in public asking about it. Staff are preparing a mail out that may not get out by the end of the week. We hope it will, but if not, it could go into next week. But there is an update coming that will probably answer some of the questions that you have, and maybe provoke some new questions that maybe we haven't thought of, right? So look forward to that. And last but not least is paving, right? We've been asking about paving, and the contractor has been overdue to complete the paving as contracted, and the crosscuts and repairs. But the latest update is that Ware's construction will be completed by the end of this week. I wouldn't be surprised if that stretched into next week, depending on the weather, and we've got the Remembrance Day holiday, which is very important. But that is the latest update that I have. That concludes the update, and by all means, Councillor Sadie King, if I missed anything, I'll give you the opportunity to take the floor as well. Thank you all for your attention. If you get any questions now, try my best to answer them. If not, you can reach out to me anytime. Happy to try my best. If I don't have the answer, I'll get you the answer.
Thank you very much, Councillor Windsor. And as if him and Councillor Sadie King and our Director of Public Works and other staff are not busy enough, I sent Councillor Windsor an email the other day basically pointing out all the issues that I received, the issues, concerns and ideas from residents during the election that's relating to Public Works, and there was 16 items that I sent, so I threw them on your plate on top of everything else that you're both dealing with now with Public Works. So it's needless to say, it is a very busy department.
And thanks, Mr. Mayor. And every one of those items, the Director of Public Works, was aware of and had answers to committee on, or at least a plan of attack for each of them. So, as time allows, what we'll do is we'll start knocking them off and advising the residents who came forward to you with their concerns. So at least they have an answer on what the next steps are. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Any other questions or comments relating to Public Works? Councillor Buckle.
I'll just make a quick comment there. I agree with Councillor Windsor and Councillor King and their director. I mean, sometimes we hold on to equipment here and too long, and sometimes we spend, as Councillor Windsor identified tonight there, I mean, sometimes we spend too much money on it instead of trying to get rid of it when we can still get a bang for our buck back on a public tender and then upgrade. And we've done that in the previous council last year. We had a loader here, our own loader, and we leased one for the winter. So we paid on that loader through the winter lease. So when we looked at buying that loader, so the lease come off the price of that loader, plus the old loader that we had here, a few years old, we still got we put it out on tender, and anyway, the case is the one that bought it at the end of the day, where we're buying the new one. But we still got 80,000+ for that loader. Plus, we got a new loader in our fleet now. Plus, we didn't lose the money that we paid towards the lease on that new loader. So I think that's the way of doing business, and I think that's the way of moving forward. I think that's what we got to look at as a council. What's best? At the end of the day, what's best going to serve our community in the infrastructure and the public works, whether it be equipment, whether it be water, whether it be sewer. That's what we should be looking at. And Mr. Mayor, just to make a point, when you send that 16 points that you received and your campaign and stuff, and you send it to Steve Windsor, did Councillor King get copied on that also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Buckle. And any other questions, comments? If not, we will move on to Business Development and Marketing. Deputy Mayor Woodford.
Thank you, Mayor. The Business Development and Marketing Committee met on November 1st with Mayor Gubby, CAO Gary Corbett, and Director Marjorie Gibbons and myself were all in attendance. Several applications under local business development were discussed. Some applications are in the preliminary stages and further discussion or information is required. So the committee decided that the Director and the CAO will provide the applicants with the necessary information to help move those applications forward. A business application was received to operate a home-based business in Marina Shores. The committee recommended sending this application to Planning and Development. An occupancy request was submitted by Dr. Char, who will be opening a clinic in the PharmaSave building on Liam Hickey Drive with a target date between November 8th to the 15th. The committee recommended notifying the fire department for inspection. And an occupancy request was submitted for a blood collection clinic in the medical building on Blue Ocean Drive with the target date of opening January 4th, 2022. The committee recommended notifying the fire department for inspection as well. They didn't have to go for discretionary use because the buildings were already a medical building. And I believe the inspections have been completed by the fire department on that. Under new business, the committee discussed plans for Small Business Week. So to recognize Small Business Week, information sessions have been planned for our local business sector. The goal is to connect our businesses with agencies and programs that can benefit them. Several agencies have agreed to participate, including ACOA, the CBDC, the BDC, the Department of Energy, Industry and Technology, and the Conception Bay Chamber of Commerce. An email was sent out to all local businesses to gauge interest in these sessions. They were asked to register. There's no cost for registration, but we needed to know some numbers. And depending on that, the time, location, and the format will be determined by the level of interest that we receive. Under funding, $25,000 in funding was received for repairs to the Heritage Building. So work on this project should begin by the end of the year. As well, $60,000 in funding was received for the Strack Park in North Arm. The committee recommended meeting with Mills and Wright to determine the scope of the work for phase 1 of this project and to get the work tendered. Under our tourism section, the Boardwalk project, of course, Councillor Windsor gave us some information on that as well. Phase 1 of this project is underway, of course. Information was provided to council and staff by Mills and Wright. We did a Zoom meeting with them, a presentation, and they are preparing a one-page flyer for distribution. I think that we may have that by now, or we will be getting it soon, and a draft copy will be given to councillors just to make sure that everything is included, that we need included. The wayfinding project, just to give you a little bit of information on this, because I didn't know a lot about this when I came into council, but 11 municipalities on the Northeast Avalon formed a regional partnership to develop a wayfinding signage plan for each participating municipality to enhance the connectivity of their existing assets and enhance visitor experience. So Tract Consulting developed signage location plans for all 11 municipalities from public surveys completed by the town's residents. The final report has been completed, and the committee recommends scheduling a Zoom meeting with Tract Consulting to discuss Holyrood's planned signage strategy, after which council will need to decide on a phased-in approach so we can go look for some funding for that project. The Trails Master Plan that was started by the previous council, that report has been completed as well, and the committee recommends requesting a presentation from Mills and Wright to determine a goal that we can set for ourselves for the spring of 2022 so we can start the funding process on that as well. Our budget, at this meeting we didn't do our budget, but we had a separate meeting on November the 4th to discuss the Business Development Marketing proposed 2022 budget, and our director, Marjorie Gibbons, was successful in reducing that by 4%. And I just want to thank all the committee members and Mayor Gooby, and that ends the report for Business Development and Marketing Committee.
Okay, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Woodford. Councillor Crawley.
Yes, just to put in a little input on that wayfinding project as well, because this came up as a line item in our finances when we were going through, and it was split between the 11, so it was a very nominal fee to be part of the study and be part of the program. But you said, lads, you said going forward now, we will have to look and see what kind of phase-in project we're going to find and if there's funding to commit fully to putting in the signage for the wayfinding. So it's a neat little program where a lot of people, tourists, expect to find it in cities and things like that. It gives you information about where things are located in our town and what significance they have. So it's a nice program, but we'll look at funding. But if anyone's kind of wondering about budget items already gone through, was that it was a very nominal fee and it was split between those 11 communities.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crawley. And I just want to add, I want to point out that with the committee structures this year, we decided not to go with committee chairs. What we did decide is that we're going to have 2 members on each standing committee, and that way then everybody can have equal input and discussion and whatnot and have the opportunity to bring the issues to the floor. So, you know, it's engaging all of the councillors, and like myself and Deputy Mayor, with business and marketing development, we're going to take turns doing our reports, and we may split it from meeting to meeting. So whichever way the committee wants to work it out, that's entirely up to themselves. But we felt that we'll just go with 2 councillors on each standing committee, and we eliminated the committee chair. So we're going to try that concept to see how it works. So far, it seems to be working quite well, and there's a lot of interaction between both councillors on that committee, and everybody's working well together. So we'll see how that goes for the next little while, and if it's working well, council will decide whether they want to keep that structure in place or they want to go back, revert back to the committee chairs. It's entirely up to council on that. Okay, now we'll move. Any questions on business and marketing development? Okay, Councillor Buckle.
If I could just add a couple, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff there in that in your report there this evening, but 2 that stand out the most there was the new doctor. You know what I mean? We've our previous council, and I'm sure the new council have heard. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people in our community that never had access to a family doctor. So that was one when I was chair actually of business development marketing that we were trying to get here in Holyrood another doctor. Dr. Char was one of them, and he was looking at Holyrood, and we had some conversations at that time with our committee, and he was trying to find the best spot, and he was between 2 facilities here in Holyrood where he was going to open up his practice. So to see that come to light here in the town is great, you know what I mean, for people to hopefully get a family doctor. And the other one that I'd like to touch base on was the blood work, the new blood work collection business. As you are aware, I mean, there's many people looking to get blood work done, and some people have to travel to St. John's, and some people would like to stay here in our community, and, you know what I mean, seniors, and just convenient for everyday people, you know what I mean, just to be able to go here in our community and get the blood work done. As you know, there's one in CBS down there, Emmanuel's, and, I mean, it creates unbelievable how busy that place is from 7 to 11 or 11:30 until it closes in the day. So to see that business here, along with the doctor, I think is 2 great businesses to our community for our residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Buckle. Any other questions, comments? If not, we will move on to public safety. Councillor Bruce King, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had our Public Safety Committee meeting on October 29th. Those in attendance was Councillor Buckle, the CAO, Mr. Corbett, the Infrastructure Director, Mr. Robert Stacey. And one of the first things we talked about was fire service fees in the outlying areas. A lot of those agreements are in place up until 2023, so there will be no changes to the fire service fees. The only thing is there's residents that live off the Salmon Line, Middle Gull Pond. There's 302 residents out there. So as of so far, 112 have paid. So we're going to send those people that have decided not to pay a letter explaining to them that, you know, it's in their own best interest to pay the $50 for the simple reason, if the Holyrood Fire Department is called out in that particular area as an example, these people need to know that they're going to pay approximately $350 an hour per vehicle. Okay, so if something happens to their property, it's going to be a very costly event. It's also going to have probably an adverse effect on their insurance, because if something happened to their property, especially if they're living in these $250,000 plus homes, and their insurance company finds out that they declined fire service, it may affect the fact that they may not get anything in return. So all these things are going to be explained to these people, and hopefully, you know, they will look at the cost involved, the value of their property, and the sake of $50 a year, they might change their mind. And anyway, we're going to work on that and see if we can increase the numbers a lot higher than what it is at 112. So the fees were looked at. The outlying fees right now between Deer Park, Vinland Road, Nalcor, and Salmon Line, those places, bring in approximately $200,000 in revenue to the town, and to upgrade services here as well. Okay. The other thing that we talked about was a fourth firefighter for the fire hall. Okay, And the fire chief went over several scenarios with regards to having the fourth firefighter. And one of the scenarios that every resident in Holyrood should be aware of, that under the current numbers that we have here, 3 firefighters, if they're called out to 111 Conception Bay Highway, for example, where I live, and there's somebody trapped in the house, okay, they can't enter my house to save me if I'm in the back, smoke inhalation down on the floor. They can fight the fire from the outside based on 3 firefighters, but nobody can come in the building to save you. Okay, so people need to be aware of that. So, okay, yes, we have 3 full-time firefighters that are here 8 to 4 every day, Monday to Fridays, but here's the consequences of not having the 4th firefighter. Okay, so people should be aware. We're going to look, we want to push the idea in the budget coming up that, for the sake of another firefighter and the sake of the cost of what it's going to be for another firefighter, here's the consequences of not having the 4th firefighter. So, and if it requires a public meeting where the fire chief is there to explain it, coming from the fire chief is probably adds a lot more weight to it than coming from council. And once we go down and do our tour at the fire hall, there's going to be better explanations, because we're going to be able to go into the fire hall. The fire chief is going to be able to explain to us in more detail exactly what it entails by having 3 firefighters full-time as opposed to having 4 firefighters full-time. Okay, so that's one thing that we're going to be working on. The other thing that came up down with the fire chief is there's a vehicle. We all know that there's an emergency response vehicle missing, and like Councillor Buckle said and Councillor Windsor, with regards to infrastructure here, well, that vehicle was 21 years old. Okay, so it pretty well outlived its usefulness. So do you really want, if you have to respond to an emergency, for example, up on the Trans-Canada Highway, whether it be a moose vehicle collision or something, do you really want to be putting your faith in a 21-year-old vehicle? I don't think there's too many people in this room and people listening at home are driving a 21-year-old vehicle, right? So that's something we're looking at, because all the equipment that was in that 21-year-old vehicle right now is sitting on the floor in the fire hall because there's no place to use it. So we're looking at a replacement vehicle for that vehicle. I know there was an attempt through the provincial government to get an emergency vehicle, and I think both attempts were rejected. But one of those vehicles are about $180,000, so it's a lot of money. We can get a vehicle to fill in the gaps. The fire chief has gone out to Hickman's, and there's vehicles there that meet the specifications that are about $55,000. Right? So one of the options we're looking at to try to get a vehicle is a fundraiser through different things, whether it be a dinner, whether it be standing on the road down there, whether it be talking to businesses within the community, businesses outside of the community, if they would consider donating, what they could donate something that we could sell tickets on. Right? People have done that before. So we're looking at all kinds of ways to try to raise money to replace the vehicle. So as we move into, hopefully we'll have something on the go before the new year. So, and that's all I have there, Mr. Mayor. Unless Councillor Buckle, would you have anything which you like to add?
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor King. And I'd just like to add and do my best to clarify why Council made this decision back a few years ago to implement $50 fee to the LSD Local Service District in the Deer Park. And it wasn't intended just as a money grab for the town, not at all. But we all know that over the last several years, the expenditures of these departments are going up and up and up. The cost of maintenance is going up. The cost of fuel is going up. And I do know, because I was a member of the Holyrood Volunteer Fire Department back in the late 80s for a couple of years, And I don't know how many calls we responded to in around Deer Park and motor vehicle accidents in on the Salmon line and whatnot. And unfortunately, we've dealt with a few fatalities in there as well. So we were in there, you know, when that call used to come in, I mean, Holyrood was really put on the spot because, you know, our primary responsibility is for the protection and preservation of human life and personal property for the residents here in our community. So when you get a call from the RCMP stating that there's a structure fire in the Deer Park, possibly people involved, how do you say no, we're not going? You can't do it. And I know the Holyrood Fire Department went in there for years and years and years, and there was no return at all for the service they provided. So finally, back a few councils ago, we had a very detailed discussion on this, and we felt that it was only fair and reasonable that some kind of fee, you know, be introduced and applied to these residents. Because now, like you say, there's a lot of residents living in there full time. So $50 a year, you know, this day and age, I think is extremely fair. And what it's doing is reinvesting some of that money back into improving the infrastructure and services that the fire department are providing. So they, as part of the residents in Holyrood, will be the net benefactors, you know, by having that extra funds come in. So, you know, we feel it's fair, and without a doubt, like I said earlier in the meeting, the cost of everything now is going up. The cost of fuel, maintenance on these vehicles, you know, the budget has been going up year over year over year. And I remember when I started with the fire department back in, again, in the late 80s, the budget was $30,000. Now we're into six figures. So, you know, it's all relative, and I think everybody has to pay their fair share. So in 2023, I think we have to meet with the group, the LSD executive, and we have to have a good conversation in letting them know exactly what the cost is now of operating the Holyrood Fire Department, and, you know, improving the infrastructure and hopefully the personnel. Because if we do get that extra firefighter, and you're correct, and I mean, I work in the fire service, if you do get a call during the day and there's somebody involved in that building with 3 firefighters, because you've got one pump operator who got to be committed to that vehicle in providing water, you don't have the personnel to go in. So, you know, at what point do you say, you know, what's priority? So that's something that we really have to take a hard look at, you know, in this budgetary process. Councillor Crowley.
Just one for the update of residents and the public who weren't aware, that may not be aware, that we're in a cost-sharing program for the 3 firefighters that we do have on staff currently.
I was going to mention.
Yes, we're in a cost-sharing with Nalcor, who supplies the majority, I think it's about roughly 70-75% of the salary for those 3 full-time firefighters.
2 and the chief, yeah.
2 and the chief, yeah,
Right.
2, right. So just want to make sure that it was out there in the public once again.
Good point, and it is. It's minimal cost to the residents of Holyrood. Councillor King.
I just want to, just to explain, there's, Nalcor pays for 2 firefighters, and the Town of Holyrood pays for the chief.
Okay, you clarified that. All right. Okay, any other questions? Councillor Windsor.
Certainly don't want to belabor the public safety, the importance of it, and thank Councillor King and other committee members and Mayor Gooby for explaining some of the context here. I think what is illuminating and important for council and for residents, there's a real education piece here to understand what goes into our first responder services and what they entail and what it costs. And, you know, it's better to have and not need than need and not have. So I think that, you know, as we all better understand what's required to deliver the high caliber services that we all deserve and expect, you know, it's just something to be aware of, and you know, and I like the approach that, you know, that Councillor King described in these letters. Like, it's not just sending a bill, right? Explaining the why, right? what it means, what are the adverse effects of not paying it, right? When people understand that, I think you'll find there'll be better community support for it. I just want to get that comment in. Thanks.
Okay, no, it's a good point. Thank you very much, Councillor Windsor. Okay, any further comments, discussion? Councillor Buckle, did you? Oh, you had to leave. Councillor Buckle has to leave for work. You're excused, sir. Okay, now we'll pay some bills, I guess. So, sorry, Deputy Mayor Woodford.
Before we end the discussion on public safety, I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention as well. I mean, we're talking about 3 and 4 firefighters, but it is a volunteer fire department. There are about 20 volunteers that they do have on staff. So the problem is not, if you call for a fire, it's not that you're only going to get 2 or 3 individuals, but the problem is 20 of these volunteers come from different parts of, of the island, not the island, but the area. Some of them are shift workers, some of them are rotational workers, some of them have day jobs. So all depending on the call, you may be able to get, enough firefighters to attend a fire, but then maybe you're not. So that was just, I wanted everyone to be sure that, there are volunteer firefighters with the Town of Holyrood, but it's, of course, when the call comes in, you're not sure of who you're going to get. Thank you.
Good point, Deputy Mayor Woodford, and I'd just like to take that one step further. I know in the past that sometimes when a call comes in, you may only have a couple of people there, so they have to wait. And I've seen it in the past where you probably have to wait 3, 4, 5 minutes or longer have a complement showing up to respond. With that extra firefighter, when you got 4, that will be deemed as a pumper crew, which means they can have wheels rolling in 80 seconds or less. That's the protocol we have at work. You have to be out of that station in 80 seconds. So when you compare response time out of that station and on the scene anywhere in Holyrood, in probably 4, 5 minutes or probably less, as to having to wait for probably 4 or 5 minutes, your response time is greatly compromised. So that's a big, big factor. And one last point is that we have to recognize that our community is continuing to grow. And we know we're going to see a lot of growth and development here in the years to come for many reasons that we all know. And there's a lot of things happening in the community. So fire protection today is not what it was 20 years ago when you depended on volunteers. That is changing, not only in this community, it's changing right across the province. Because this issue, like with volunteers, as the Deputy Mayor just suggested, you have firefighters that are out of the province and for various reasons, they just can't respond. So there's no guarantee on who's going to be responding when that pager goes off. And that conversation has been held with the Fire Chiefs and Firefighters Association for many years right across the province. And many municipalities are struggling with the same thing. Because at the end of the day, we all want to have, an acceptable response time that nobody is going to be hurt or worse. And I think this is forward thinking, recognizing the fact that our community is growing, the population is going up. I don't know what the next census is going to be, but when you look around and see all the new homes going up right now, a lot of them with young children. We have a lot of seniors units or 55 plus seniors units. We have the new, the Marine base or the launch, that's going to be opening next year. We have the IBEW building. We have a lot of commercial buildings in this community, a lot. So when you add that with the residential growth and development, we have to look at public safety we have to look at it in a different manner. Yes, there's a cost, no question. There's no question. But as I've said repeatedly for years, one of, if not the most important service that a town can provide its residents is the protection and preservation of personal property and human life. So, I'm glad that you're on top of that, Councillor King, with the chief and the executive and all the fire department, and doing a great job in keeping council updated, and we'll work together on this. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, comments? If not, I'll turn the floor over to Councillor Crowley to pay some bills.
And the first thing I'm going to thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first thing I'm going to mention is our bank book balance. Brace yourselves. $238.63. So there's no need to panic there because there will be a transfer in a couple of seconds coming up here. General accounts. This is all the line items and checks to be paid, all the bills to be paid. So be it resolved that accounts tabled in the amount of $226,251.01. Their check numbers 042544 up to 042601, D 40s 2211, D 40s 2233 from October 18th to the 28th, 2021. Be approved for payment from the general account. So they're all checks ready to go out. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Crowley. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Further discussion?
We went through line item by line item, Councillor King and myself with Director Marie Searle, and that was on October 27th, and we went through item by item and made sure everything was there and accounted for. There's going to be some hard decisions made over the next little while, not necessarily in this case, but as we saw, everyone keeps bringing up budget items. So we'll have a lot more input, Councillor King and myself, in the next coming weeks.
Okay.
But we did go through and we saw some rentals and leases, which goes back to the fleet problem and things like that. So that'll all be coming up.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions and comments? Councillor Windsor.
Not a question, but I guess a comment. I know Councillor Crowley is a fiscal hawk, so I'm very pleased to see that she's really embraced her role on this committee and support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Windsor. I'll take that as a compliment.
There you go. Okay. If there's no other questions or comments, could I have a motion to approve, please? Or, I'm sorry,
No,
motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. Countermanded, motion is carried.
Okay. And C, the transfer will take care of our bank book balance. Just a little background too, is that when our taxes and things come in, it gets put into another account to hold it and try to roll some money and garner some extra cash. So this is going to be transferred back to pay all those bills. So transfer, be it resolved to transfer $100,000 from premium investment account to the general account. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Crowley, seconded by Councillor Windsor. Further discussion? If not, all those in favour, those against, motion is carried.
And that's it for now, as I said. We'll have much more to go. Oh, there is another motion. Councillor King, are you going to put it forward? Or do you want me to? Okay. Sorry, there was another motion. And just a little background as well. This is from the soccer field being developed, and there was still drainage issues. And we kind of expected that from, we all know that it was a major drainage problem up there. So, be it resolved, the Town of Holyrood approved change order number 1 for project 17 CCR 20-00007, Holyrood soccer field upgrades. This change order allowed for changes in parking area, sloping, and additional topsoil and sodding for erosion control. So after clearing and grubbing of the area, significant drainage concerns resulted, and rock outcrops were identified in the work area. This resulted in rock busting, installation of drainage tile, and reshaping of areas. Additional topsoil and sodding were required for the erosion control at sloped embankments and wet areas. The change order increased the project by $59,942.42, but the costs remain within the approved $570,103.12 funding for the project. So it ended up being a change and an increase in the change. However, it still managed to fit within the budget.
Okay.
So this was voted on by council in August. They became aware of it, so the previous council were aware of this, approved the changes went through, and now this is actually going through the process of motion of paying them out.
So is the problem mitigated?
As far as I can tell now, from what we received, is Mills and right, that it is mitigated now with the extra sodding and tile embankment
Okay,
and extra topsoil.
okay.
So, fingers crossed, like, more than fingers crossed, but I'm really hoping that if anyone else has extra light, but we saw that as it was being constructed and renovated and dug up, we could see the drainage. You could see the drainage problem. We traveled there many times as we were going along, and you could see it still being a problem. And I guess when they got in there, they saw the same thing. And hopefully, the amount of topsoil and rock busting and stuff took care of the problem.
Okay, all right.
So, thanks for that, Councillor Crawley. Question, I guess, and there's some background here that I'm not aware of, but I would challenge, a change order from a company, should the design have accounted for the drainage? Should that have been forecasted, in other words, right? There's been drainage issues there for years, so now on the basis that the overall project is on budget, I got no big issue from my end, but that sort of thing, when we have contractors executing projects and they come forward with change orders, I would look to challenge that where appropriate to do so, right? Has the engineering been done correctly? Has it been planned correctly? Has it been executed correctly?
Okay, before we go any further, I need a seconder for that motion. Okay, seconded by, you moved the motion.
I moved the motion. Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted more background information. Am I allowed to give the background information?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, you're moving the motion, seconded by
motion, second
Deputy
motion.
Mayor.
Okay.
Okay, now
More
discussion.
discussion.
Carry on.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so is that okay to give out that okay. So on August 3rd, a motion was completed for the engineering change order component, but not for the contractor. The change order requirement came in from the Department of Municipal and Provincial Affairs as the project is almost completed, and the contractor requested the funding for the change work order included in the motion. That was approved by the province. So there was a motion for engineering change order, but the contractor's work component was not included, as total pricing was not determined until the engineering change work was addressed. Because I questioned the motion when it came in as well, wondering where this had come from, what happened. And that's the explanation for it. So the motion was put forward, but it was from municipal and provincial affairs.
Right.
So the motion went through with the contracting, but the contractor wasn't paid, and now this is the motion to pay the contractor.
Okay.
That's my understanding now.
All right. Any other questions or comments on that? If not, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Don't see everybody's hands going up. Okay. Another show of hands for the motion. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? 1, 2. The motion is carried. Okay, that's it for corporate services, Councillor Crowley.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor King. Okay, and now we'll move on to new business. We'll do the go around, and I'll start with Deputy Mayor Woodford.
I have nothing to add at this time.
Okay, Councillor Bruce King. Nothing. Councillor Crowley.
I think I had enough.
Thank you, Councillor Sadie King. Councillor Windsor.
No new business, but just to, I guess, acknowledge, this week is a very important week. Remembrance Day holiday on the 11th. You touched on the beginning of the meeting, Mr. Mayor, and acknowledge the service of the men and women who have given and continue to give so much. And there's one in our room right now, Councillor King. Acknowledge your service, sir. That was the only comment I had. Really, it's a very special day, an important day. I plan to spend it like I always do at the Field of Honour in St. John's. My grandfather was a veteran in World War II, and it's a long storied history there, but I won't get into it here, but other than to say that everybody at home, please take a moment of reflection on that very solemn and important day.
There's so much turmoil going on in the world today, and lack of democracy, dictatorships. You know, there's a lot of countries out there who don't know what freedom is really all about. And it's still going on. And we are blessed to have a country that's so safe and so free. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Councillor Bruce King, on behalf of Council and all the residents of Holyrood for the many years. How many years did you serve? 40 years with the armed forces and served in different capacities. So thank you so much for your service. We really appreciate it. Okay, that concludes the agenda. The date of the next regular meeting of council is November the 30th at 5:30. Could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by Councillor Crawley, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? Councillor minded. Meeting is adjourned. Good night, everyone.